I mean, okay, for the longest time, it took me so long. I might be the odd one out, but you kept saying AP, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is that? It's actual play. It's actual play. It took me 40 to 50 minutes to figure what AP meant.
I am happy you said something, Adrian, because I, too, was like, AP, okay, assistant principal, I got that one. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense in this context. I think I got it a little bit sooner. I think it was around the 25-30-minute mark.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
This part and put it in the very beginning.
No.
I should have defined it.
For me. People like me.
Nope.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons & Degrees. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And today we have a special guest. Special guest, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm the special guest. I'm Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You might know me across the internet as by Connie Chang, ByConniechang. I am the game master and creative producer for Transplanar RPG, which is an all transgender POC-led dark fantasy D&D show set in an original non-colonial anti-Orientalist world. I like to pitch it and describe it as the L word, but a lot more diverse, meets the literal end of the fucking world. So if queer drama and eldritch horror is your jam, you'll love our first main campaign, The Second Stranger. And yeah, that's a quick little one too about what I do in the space. And thank you so much for having me on, Adrian and Alex.
Of course.
Never have I opened up my Spotify faster to immediately hit follow, to immediately download the first episode, to immediately say, hell yes, let's go.
Hell yeah.
Another one on the board.
Another one. All you had to say was the L word, and then I was like, shit, okay.
Yeah, I saw your eyes just light up.
I have photoshopped a poster of like the OG L word with all of my cast's faces over each of their faces, and I'm so sorry to whoever I made Jenny. I forget who I put over Jenny's face, but I'm so sorry to that person.
And you're coming into like a final arc, is that correct?
We are, yes. As of the recording of this, not sure when release schedules will line up. We are pretty much midway through arc 8, which is our final arc. We've done 8 arcs, which is truly incredible to think about, and each one has been anywhere from 8 to 16 episodes long. So there's some variance, but that's a lot of content. And I'm kind of in like a place where I'm doing a kind of retrospective on The Second Stranger in a way that feels really good, because this is a campaign that's been 2.5, almost 3 years in the making at this point, from when we first hit start streaming to when we like finally finished up our last recording. So yeah, there are a lot of emotions for myself as a game master and for all 8 members of my cast, because this is really the campaign that helped like launch my career in TTRPGs in actual play in a lot of ways, and it still is like a core part of who I am in the space, and like a big project that I put a lot of heart and thought and soul into.
Coming to the end, do you feel like you've wrapped everything up nice in a bow, or like do you feel like even though not everything will be answered, the finale will still be satisfying for you and your castmates? So,
as someone who is a screenwriter and also like a poet, I worked very hard along with my dramaturg to make sure that the ending wraps everything up in a really nice way, and that like big world questions are all essentially answered, and there's a lot of satisfaction, I think, thematically and for the characters and narratively as well. There are some open threads that may or may not set the stage, for manner of speaking, for our second main campaign, but we do plan on definitely taking like an extended hiatus, between our 2 main big projects that we're gonna fill with some nice like bonus content, on Transplanar. But yeah, more the former than the latter, and that has largely been by design, working with my dramaturg, and of course we transitioned from live streaming on Twitch to pre-recording, and then getting a VOD editor and an audio mixer to like add background music, cut out pauses, sound effects, and all that between arcs 4 and 5. So arcs 1 through 4 are all live streamed, and arcs 5 through 8 are all pre-recorded. And that has helped immensely with helping to tie everything up as well. Because we technically have finished recording like back in October of 2022, but the last episode of Arc 8 won't finish streaming until like February.
Is there a different dynamic now that it's from 4 and 5 that you felt happened with it being a live stream, like having to always be like on with personality to like kind of keep things going, versus now that you have a pre-record that you kind of have to lay back a bit?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question because since switching to pre-recording, I have been in situations where I've been on stream for like other channels or like different one-shots or miniseries or whatnot. And it's actually a harder switch to switch from pre-recorded to live. And it was an easier switch from live to pre-recorded when we're talking purely in terms of performance and creativity. Like it's harder to be used to being able to do multiple takes or like not having the pressure of a live audience versus like being used to that and then switching to, oh god, I'm live all the time, chat's going, and there are like live incentives and donations occurring, and you know, depending on the channel and depending on how they run their shit, basically, like it may or may not have more or less pressure in terms of audience interaction. So transitioning in terms of like a performance mindset from live to pre-recorded was actually like really nice. I would say that was one of the great boons of pre-recording versus streaming. It's better for safety, I would say. It's better for just like being able to take breaks and redo takes that you might not be happy with, which wouldn't really work if you were live. You kind of just have to keep trucking in a lot of ways. You can retcon, of course, if you're live, especially if it's for something like safety. But I just find that like pragmatically, it happens less. Like people are less like likely to ask for a redo if it's live on Twitch, but more likely to do so if they feel like it's supported in terms of like a back-end pre-recorded situation. But yeah, it's also a lot of work. Pre-recorded, like an astronomical amount more work than live, especially because we do edits of my dramaturg / co-producer / one of the players at my table, C. Thomas, is also our VOD editor, and they spend like 5 to 8 hours a week, maybe. They used to spend more as they were getting used to editing because they didn't come from a video editing background, just editing a single episode. And that's not including the audio mixer we also have. Like, we have someone to, like, master all of our tracks, too. Like, and they spend a few hours a week doing that, too. So there's a lot more, like, post-production work, like, just in terms of sheer labor that's involved for a pre-recorded show if you want it to be, like, tightly edited, tightly paced, well-produced, with, like, background and sound effects and stuff like that.
That's amazing. That's a lot of production and a lot of like cohesiveness needs to kind of go into that kind of upscale production to 100%. Have it be streaming. What is the kind of like from one episode being recorded to it being finished? What does that kind of timeline look like?
A lot of it depends. We kind of work backward from release schedule, so we try to like line everything up to when we want the final things to be out. And a lot of it also depends on the cast's availability. Like, the big bad of any TTRPG campaign is scheduling, right? Like, getting the players actually to sit at a table and commit, like, a 3 to 4 hour chunk of their life to it. And especially for Arc 8, I had 8 players at my table for each episode, which was a gargantuan endeavor, just in terms of sheer scheduling and spotlight juggling and all that. But that was done, like, in terms of the recording itself, purely based on people's schedules. I was like, we're gonna have to work with what we have here, and then, like, other concerns can come later, to a certain degree, because we did have production needs that needed to happen. Like, we didn't want to / we couldn't push in terms of just like funding and other production issues, like past a certain point of airing stuff. So we knew we had to be done pre-recording by like the end of October. We were like, we could maybe push into the first week of November, but like that would be really not ideal. So the cast knew that, and they were able to like prioritize within their own schedules and like make room and time for this, especially because it was just an 8 episode arc. So 8 sessions, and a few players had to miss a few episodes. You know, like if you watch our VODs of Arc 8, you'll notice a couple of people's like screens blacked out because they couldn't make it, or because they had like conflicts ahead of time or anything like that. But for the majority of the episodes, most people were in attendance. And I would say, like, from beginning of a recording to its airing, there's the recording itself. I mean, the work starts before the recording, right? With me as a GM prepping the session. That starts like way in advance. That starts like at least a week in advance to any session. Because we also have a dramaturg. So I work with my dramaturg to come up with like the beats for that session. I like have my notes, I prep it out, and then we record it. And then we send it off to our audio mixer, who like mixes all the tracks into a big master track. And then I send that over to my VOD editor, and they edit it the week before it goes live. And then I put all of the VODs that we edit into my OBS, and then we run the stream, right? So that's kind of like the life cycle of a pre-recorded Arc 8 episode.
There are so many moving pieces.
Yep. Yep.
I've seen like a podcast or two kind of like come and like lose people and go, and then like to have 8 arcs worth of like material into like with like people being and showing up, and those who, you know, make it and don't make it, like to keep pushing through that's very amazing. Do you feel like if you could do it again, which I feel like you're, you know, as the new main campaign, you're going to do it again in some form or fashion. Is there anything you would do differently?
So many things. So many things. You're going to have to get like specific about the things I would change, like from like a creative, a developmental, a production, like community management standpoint. Like there's so many lessons from just like the 2.5, 3 years of AP stuff I've been doing that I just like, there's so many different things I would do.
All right, let's go back. Okay, hold on. We got this. Okay, we can strategically get through these questions. What are the 2 pieces of advice that you would tell season 1 GMU to do?
Run it more like a story and less like a game. That would be the number 1 piece of advice. I think Arc 1 Connie was still very much running Transplanar like as a game first. Like very much like asking for history checks to unlock important lore, doing random encounters, that didn't really go anywhere, running, I ran a dungeon that had puzzles and traps, which every single one of my players freaking hated, cause they're like roleplay, like there were just like some decisions I made from like an encounter building level that I would gently take past me by the shoulders and go, why are you putting this encounter in? How does it serve the greater plot? And just in terms of like AP facilitation advice I would give myself, like, is this a promise you're setting up to the audience, and is it going to pay off? Because if it's a no and a no, don't include it. Like that would be like the number one, like one of the number 1 pieces of like just facilitation advice. Another one would just be like, I've learned so much just about like running a ship and like facilitating not just player characters but players, and like knowing how to work with players who have their own lives and have their own different kinds of expectations about what an AP is, have their own different approaches to performance and whatnot, that we didn't start Arc 1 with like any sort of player contracts or anything like written in paper or like fully acknowledged, but like we had like session zeros on like a big talk about what we wanted the show to be. But honestly, starting from ground zero, I would like tell myself like, feel empowered to make decisions. Like, feel empowered to take, like, full creative ownership of this project and, like, be a showrunner and, like, go out and do stuff. Because I think a lot of myself behind the scenes in Arc 1, I was still very much trying to approach running Transplanar with a kind of horizontal leadership structure in mind. Very much, like, put in as much work as you want to put in and, like, you know, and we'll just go where we go. And, like, Transplanar is, like, by all of us. But what ended up actually happening is I did the lion's share of work anyway, which I had basically expected and had signed up for, but the way it had been, like, I guess I was just kind of like either not confident enough or like not sure enough in my own vision to take full ownership over this particular project. So a lot of the ways in which I've grown over the past like 2.5 years has also been in the arena of like, no, actually this is a professional show and I should be running it and thinking of it and treating it like that, which will like, one, help me get my cast paid, like legitimately. Like if I'm thinking about like finances and money, it's good for everyone involved because that means everyone gets to be compensated a bit more equitably. And two, it reflects in the quality of the stream we put out, right? Because like the less, like the mind shift away from like this is just like friends around a table who just happen to hit record, to like we're actually trying to like tell a cohesive and cogent story, was one that I had like always wanted, even from the beginning of Arc 1, but didn't really know, I think, what it meant until I actually started putting my boots on the ground and like figuring it out through experience.
Alex.
Your brain. I saw your brain moving. I saw it tickling.
No. I did, but I didn't want to step on your toes again, okay?
No,
Because when
you're
I
not
get
stepping on
rolling,
my toes,
I start rolling.
No one. Adrian, this is a time for us to both be, because like everything that Connie is putting out is tickling all sorts of different facets of places, right? Having that open conversation with your players about what you want to achieve while you're at your table. But also having really strong consequences, maybe not strong consequences, but being able to set yourself up for success later and acknowledging, hey, these were the expectations. We wrote them out and here it is. And I want to have a conversation about you with like, hey, let's check in about what we all expected. Because at one point you sat down and said, this is what it is. It's in writing. So it's a little more formal than like you said, like friends around the table playing games, which is wonderful and a fabulous thing to do. But if your spirit says that you need to shift it otherwise, then by all means shift it. And like, it's really fantastic to hear like someone talking through that. And like all the things that we talk about as DMs or game masters, like it still plays out, right? How do I have the buy-in from my players? How do I create a better story? What do I do? And how do I reach my players in a way that they really want? If your players don't like puzzles, then don't put puzzles in there. Or put a puzzle in a way that makes you happy and maybe like still is geared towards your players if you still want to have some sort of puzzle aspect. Like find ways to reach them, because honestly, they're the ones that are in charge. And like, you as the game master are facilitating the fun or the story.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like ringing a lot of bells, like, because one, I've finished my first arc on my own show, and there's been big changes since that arc ended, because like some people can't put in that work that needs to be put in. So this is hopefully by this time we've already said that one of our players has to leave because they got a new job, they're moving, we're losing a fifth of the cast, which just feels so huge, just one player out. So like now that I have to like rethink how I want to approach this new campaign. So like your advice to Arc 1 Connie is like hitting me in the head right now a little hard.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk about like the differences between, I think, running a home game versus running an AP. I think, like, so this is one of those, like, cyclical conversations that comes up in TTRPG Twitter, like, like clockwork, every 3 months. It's like a topic of the day. Is like, if you're playing or running an AP, it's different from playing or running a home game. And there's always the same people and the same takes, like, underneath that take being like, no, it's not, or like, no, it shouldn't be, or like, whatever. And I'm just like, I don't know. Folks can run their home games and their APs however they want, like for whatever works for them. Right? I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum at all, especially if it's not hurting anyone. And if it's like how they have the most fun, like go for it. Like I empower you. Yes. If you like random encounters, if you like puzzles, like go for it. Throw them at your players. Like go you. Yay. In terms of my own approach, I have just found that it's like so much smoother, and for me, much more narratively fulfilling for everyone involved, from myself as a player, from myself as a GM, to my players, to the audience, if like there's a consensus from everyone at the table about what the themes are, what their character arcs might look like, and what like the big conflicts of the show are going to be, which then like helps players facilitate their own role playing, their own performances, and their own like portrayal of their character from point A to point Z by the end of the campaign, right? Like, which is why I always try to provide my players during session 0, whether it's for Transplanar's main campaign or for the various mini-series or like one-shots we do, with like a very cohesive session 0 that covers the specific topics and themes and encourages my players to build their characters around those topics. So like the show feels like interwoven with each other, and like every layer of creativity from NPCs to PCs to plot hooks to just like the overall dramaturgy of the world resonates within itself, right? Like one of the central themes of Transplanar is about finding queer love in the depths of darkness, right? And how like love is expansive and transformative and deeply, deeply hopeful. And that has resonated across every character that all of my players have brought to the table, and resonated across like pretty much every single major NPC's like central stories and objectives and goals too. Like that theme. And, you know, it's important also that the theme is like broad enough that like players can bring their own ideas to it. So, and is not so specific as like, we are exploring 1923 through 1925 economic, like, da-da-da-da-da in this specific town, in this, you know, like then that's less of a theme and more of an aesthetic, I suppose. Yeah, I would say that like for any AP, especially people who are like first starting out with producing their own APs or running their own APs, like just have an idea of what you want your show to be about, which is different from its plot. The plot is different from the theme, though they should be connected. And like, just be aware of the kinds of stories you're telling and drawn to, and be upfront about that to your players. 'Cause horror means different things to different people, right? Like, I love horror, but I wouldn't want to be in a horror campaign that's like super, super gory or deals with like sexual assault. You know what I mean? But like some people might, right? You know, like Bluebeard's Bride deals with a lot of heavy themes, and that's like a great horror game that I wouldn't recommend to everyone unilaterally, right? So like there's also safety considerations when we talk about like being aware of the themes we bring to the table.
Right. Of course.
Is there a specific storyline that came out that you were surprised that came out? Not that it was out of the blue, it's just something like the way that it turned, or there was something that happened that was different than you expected.
Yes. A lot of the twists and turns of subplots that occur in The Second Stranger actually like end up like pretty thematically resonant, which I'm really happy about. There's one, this is spoilers for like Arc 5 of Transplanar. This is a spoiler, so if you haven't seen up to that point or watched up to that point, this is a big spoiler, but it's fine. I'll talk about it. It's okay. There is a mini boss, a kind of like a goon, a side villain who like serves the bigger villain, and his name is Adam. And he's super like weird. So like he's introduced in Arc 1, and immediately my players are like, this man is weird, because first of all, he's like the first and only white male NPC I've ever introduced in The Second Stranger. Like every other character is a person of color, and or like not a cis man, and he's like just this white guy. So immediately my players were like, what is up with this dude? Like, he doesn't fit into the setting, but like, what is happening? So this just kind of organically emerged a little bit because my players were theorizing out loud, and I was like, I'm gonna steal that theory because it's better than what I came up with and use it for this character. That a twist is he's actually just a normal dude from Cincinnati, Ohio, who flew through a wormhole and got stuck in this like off the walls fantasy world in the middle of an apocalypse, and all he wants to do is go home. He just wants to go home, drink a Monster Energy, and like eat a Hot Pocket. Like he doesn't want to be caught up in all this shit anymore. So like Adam, who kind of started off as like a goofy, like cartoon level evil white dude villain, like by the end also like became complicated, right? He's like, I know I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. Please just let me go so I can go home, go back to my shitty little apartment in Cincinnati and like watch my sports team lose. You know, like that's all I want to do. So like his pure mundanity took on a kind of tragic edge by the end, especially given how his character arc is wrapped up. And like PCs who started off hating him and had very specific beef with him, like ended it feeling feeling for him and like developing an actually interesting relationship with this dude who had kind of just started a little bit in terms of like his personality, a little bit like a joke, but he had always been very menacing and sinister. But like adding on these layers of tragedy, right, and like drilling down deep into Adam has been one of like the joys, I think, the unexpected joys of just facilitating this game.
Not a white dude from Cincinnati coming in.
He was a big bad for the longest time. Some dude from Cincinnati.
His little Bengals jersey on.
Yeah, no, literally.
That's pretty fucking great. Alex, do we just keep going down the line of now? Do we go to Arc 2, Connie?
I mean, if we want to do a play-by-play,
because it feels like we're gonna be here for a while if we keep doing it that way.
I mean, listen, I think it's whatever it is. It feels organic. It feels organic.
All right, what would you advise for Arc 2, Connie?
Arc 2 was a wild ride. Arc 2 was the Court of Ravens. Each arc, essentially, up until like the last two arcs, follows the party as they try to solve a specific kind of mystery related to a specific part of the world. So they go to different countries and kingdoms, essentially, from like arc to arc. And the mystery is always magical in nature and are like connected. Like the mysteries are connected. And that's all set up in like Arc 1. Arc 2, the mystery was people aren't dying in the Court of Ravens, which is ruled by the Raven Queen. Like there's this thing called the profane undeath that like keeps people alive even if they've taken grievous injuries. And like part of like my hope when I first set this up was like, I really want a PC to die and then not die. I was like, I want a PC to take like a horrific, I want them to get decapitated or like stabbed through the heart and like realize, oh fuck, like we can't die. That never happened. That never happened. So I think a specific piece of advice I would have given Arc 2 Connie is kill a PC. Like straight up just do it. Just kill one of them. You had so many opportunities. You should have just dealt the killing blow. That would have been one of them. Another one of them I think would have been, we're getting kind of specific. But it would have been related to the portrayal of Rev, who was one of the major NPCs of Arc 2, who was introduced in Arc 1. And she, like, I'm happy with the way I portrayed her, but I think I could have hit my players a little harder even. Like, just over the course of Arcs 1 through 8, I've really gotten to know Rev really well as an NPC, and Arc 2 was in a lot of ways Rev's arc. Like, it's when she gets over a lot of, like, baggage, basically, and, like, claims her rightful place in the flow of destiny. She, like, becomes a paragon. And I'm mostly happy with how I facilitated it. And I did describe her ascension, but it did kind of also happen off screen. So, you know, like, in terms of, like, little things, I would have wanted the PCs to be there when she ascended, and for, you know, that Rev relationship to be more directly tied to the other thing that was happening in Arc 2, which was the Derelict Death Derby, which was basically like a race through the swamp to a whirlpool. Yeah, and, like, a bunch of people were, flocking to the court because of the undeath. They were like, we can't die here, so let's throw on, like, essentially, like, a demolition derby, but in the middle of a swamp, because we can't die. And, like, the winner is gonna get to talk to the champion of Nabal. And Nabal is a kingdom that the players explore in Arc 3. So what I am proud of myself for doing is setting up a very, like, clear transition between each arc. Like, Arc 1 to Arc 2 is really clear why the PCs had to go there, and by the end of Arc 2, our players win the derby, and they receive an invitation to talk to Atalanta, who is the ruler of Nabal, so they go to Nabal in Arc 3, and they explore the mystery in Nabal there. So that's something I would keep. That's something I think I handled pretty well. But in terms of, like, the little things I would change, Rev's portrayal I would just hit harder, because I now in retrospect know who she is better. And just, yeah, having her be a bigger presence, I think, and killing one of my PCs.
Torture the PCs is what I heard. That's
yes.
The subsection of this is just torture PCs.
They could have had such a cool scar.
It's fine.
All right, Arc 3, Connie.
Arc 3, to be quite honest, is I think where I start to hit my stride. Like, Arcs 1 and 2 aren't bad. I don't think they're a lot more trad D&D though. Like, in terms of how I ran them. Though there were some, like, glimpses of, like, narrative combat that I have kept through to like arc 8. But arc 3, in terms of the themes and in terms of the emotional stories and in terms of my PC's backstories, I think is where I really start to hit my stride. It's the carnival arc. So the mystery for arc 3 is there's this carnival that everyone's talking about that's happening in like the middle of the woods, and people who go into it don't come out. So like the ruler of this place is like, what the fuck is happening? Go check it out. So the players end up checking it out. They don't get to the carnival until halfway through the arc, which I think is okay. Because there's a lot of political stuff that I had to set up in the first half for the second half to make sense. And like the carnival is like such a looming thing that it was kind of fun that they went into it at the midpoint. Yeah. The carnival is honestly just like off the walls. Just truly unhinged and ridiculous. It's like a psychedelic nightmare, hallucinogenic tripscape. That the players go through with their deepest flaws taunting them. Like, that's the whole point of Arc 3. Like, it's their deepest flaws come to surface, their worst mistakes, all the reasons they hate themselves and each other, come up. And this is also when one of my, PCs, the first PC in the party ascends to Paragonhood. And that was a really dope moment. This was also when I really started to vocalize and, introduce more gods as like active forces in the world. And in terms of advice, I would say I don't know if I would have any specific advice for myself in Arc 3, because I think I needed to make the decisions I did and run the NPCs the way I did to be able to get to where I am currently. Maybe just making Kane sluttier. That's like one NPC that ends up being a love interest. Like, honestly, that's my main piece of advice. Make them sluttier. To be quite frank.
Excellent piece.
Yeah, they were slutty, but I think I could have dialed it up even more.
How much of the story was written before you guys started recording? Like, how much of your moments or your beats, how much of that was completed before you recorded?
That's a really great question. And the ending of the entire thing, the ending of the entire campaign, I already knew what it was going to look like, or like what the finale would look like, before we hit record for Arc 1 Episode 1, before we streamed for that. So that's always been a known factor for me, but how we got there, what came of the finale, like the true ending, like I knew what the boss fight was gonna look like, essentially. Like I knew who the big bad was and like what they wanted, and like what their version of the best end would have been. But a lot of the little things, a lot of like the little, like the character subplots and like the actual session to session, scene to scene, encounter to encounter way that things played out, a lot of it was only decided maybe like a week in advance when I was doing session prep for that particular session. I would say I always knew what the overall shape of the campaign would be, but like the specifics were filled in as we went. And there was still a lot of room for improvisation and things going off the hinges and off the rails, and players introducing their own ideas and their own theories that I would yoink or like change or like have influence the greater plans of myself as a GM. So yeah, I would say maybe like 50% of it was decided and the other 50 was discovered.
I like that. Was there an alternate ending for your big bad?
Not any that I had visualized until I started looking at Arc 8. Because by that point, my PC's relationship to the big bad and their own character arcs had kind of crystallized. Like, everyone sort of knew what their characters were and what they wanted by that point, that it was pretty easy to think of like, okay, and we had a Arc 8 session 0 where we sat everyone down and we were like, what would be an ending for each of your individual characters that you would be okay with? Like, that you would be like, ideally, like, oh, this is my happy ending. Like, what is a happy ending you would want? What would be a tragic ending you'd be okay with? Basically, would you be okay with your PC dying? And what would be like an outcome that you just wouldn't be cool with as a player? Like, not as a PC, but as a player. So we talked through those options, and just in terms of safety and like narrative satisfaction and cohesion, like, it was good to know the specific kinds of endings for my players' characters that they just didn't want, because it just wouldn't make sense for their character. Like, it just wouldn't be satisfying for anyone involved. Like, me as a GM, them as a player, or even the audience. So I avoided those. I discarded all of those. I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. But between like this gray area that's full of just nice narrative grist I could pour into the sawmill of narrative and churn out a cohesive story with, like, there was a lot to work with, a lot of clay to shape.
I really like that. And I guess going off of like how much of talking with your players, since you are creating this, right, for a story, having a cohesive idea of what's going on, how much do you share behind the screen with your players, maybe beforehand or during or whenever? Like, how much do they get to see behind what you're doing?
That's a good question, too.
And do you lie to them?
Yeah. So I don't actually ever directly lie. Like, I say X is going to happen and then Y happens instead, but I do omit. I do lie by omission. And it's like the fun kind of omission, right? Like, cause what I will say is I very rarely give big plot twists away. Like, I just think it's fun if like the first time they encounter like an actual twist is when we're recording, because then their reactions are genuine, and that's like part of the fun of playing, right? That's like a big part of the fun of being a player. I do give my players heads up for specific circumstances. One is for safety reasons. If I'm like designing an encounter and I'm like, oh, we have a veil around like heights, and let's say the encounter like would involve flying into the air or something, like then I'd be like, ooh, and I might reach out to that player in particular and be like, hey, I'm designing a thing, like, would you be comfortable if ABC, you know? And like that's just like a safety thing. Another situation in which I might give a player or players heads up is if the session is going to have parts of it, or if the entire thing are going to be kind of that character heavy. Like, if it's going to be a kind of spotlight episode for that character, or like even a spotlight arc, I would want to put in a little bit of extra work with that player one-on-one to just sort of like decide like, okay, are you ready for this session? Do you kind of know the scenes you're going to go into about? Do you like have stuff prepped for where you could facilitate your character's emotional arc during this session or during this entire season? That feels important and is always very appreciated by the player, because like then they're able to prep themselves as an actor and as a performer, like for the recording they're about to go into, knowing that like it's going to be kind of focused on them. Something I always like to do as well is to give my players usually a day before, the night before, or like 2 nights before the session recording itself, what I call like a session overview. So this isn't like a script. Like, this isn't like, we're gonna go here and then there and then there, and you're gonna meet this character and talk and say this to them and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not a script. It's just kind of like a general plot and thematic overview of what they can expect that session. So, like, okay, we're gonna open on the war leader's war camp, because that's where you were last session, where you're gonna wrap up the conversation you have with this leader of this faction, and then, like, there's probably gonna be some combat happening, and then in the second half, like, Dewey and Vasanti, I knew the two of you really wanted to have a conversation, so I've made some room for the two of you to have that conversation, and we're gonna end on a classic Connie cliffhanger. That's about how specific and explicit things get, but even that is very helpful, because then, like, especially in Arc 8, when there are 8 players at a table, like, if they know, okay, in this session, these are the scenes I'm in, and these are the scenes I'm not in, it helps them realize, like, okay, I can just sit back for this scene and not be like, should my character come in and say something? Should I not? Because that's like 8 different people stepping over each other's toes, which, especially over a digital format, is just like not impossible to deal with if you don't have like some kind of plan in place. So yeah.
Well, I like the idea of like, hey, I know you want to talk or have some like narrative points. We will have time in this area that will happen during this session. So here, this is just for y'all. There's many times when my players personally have just been like, hey, I want to do some RP because we've been just like going through the story, we've been lore dumping, we've done all this, but I want to like talk to the other players. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I just carve out a piece. But like having that prepared ahead of time is just something that, well, me as a DM who rarely preps, just so smart.
I'd say it's a little bit of a game changer, to be quite honest, especially for an AP. Like, something I have noticed as a player in APs is, and I also sympathize with GMs because I am also a GM, where like, it's kind of like, okay, this is an AP, stuff has to happen, the plot has to move, like move, and like there's, especially in Arc 1 and a little bit Arc 2, but I kind of like peeled back on this in Arc 3, is this idea of like, roleplay. I guess I had this kind of misconception in my own mind that roleplay scenes weren't interesting, or like they didn't move the needle of plot. So I'd be like, if my players wanted to talk to each other, I just sort of sit back and be like, okay, I'd be, let's gonna attack now, like be like, oh god, like now I'm gonna move the plot forward. But actually, it is like, and this is, I think, a way that I've matured significantly as a GM, like actually being really invested in my players' stories and in their role play and in their relationships to each other as players and player characters and the world. They're the main characters for a reason, right? And like roleplay scenes aren't just filler, which I think was for me a kind of worry I had. Like they are crucial in getting the audience to give a shit about the main characters, first of all, and also for them to understand the main characters and their motivations, so those things hit harder when the backstory twists inevitably happen. So I would say, like, giving your players, if you know, a heads up in advance of, like, scenes they can expect to encounter that are related to their backstory or, like, that are roleplay focused is huge. Because then that player can prep. That player can even, like, maybe, like, come up with some lines that they might say, or, like, come up with, like just get into, like, a nice acting and performance mindset when it actually occurs, versus, like, okay, here's just an open RP scene for all four of you. Like, oh, you're traveling from, like, point A to point B, go. Then it's just like, man, that merchant we killed, am I right? Like, what are you even talking about? So it's nice.
How's the weather?
Exactly. It's nice when players, especially in an AP, have a topic they can discuss, right? That isn't just like, go. Which, like, some people can just go. But for a lot of people, it's helpful to have a direction. And even for people who can just go, like, whether or not that scene will actually be narratively compelling or thematically resonant is another thing, right? Because you could just talk about the merchant you killed, or you could talk about your, like, daddy issues, right? That have been kind of hinted at this entire campaign, but never fully explored. And, like, this is the opportunity to, like, bring it up, right?
I mean, okay, for the longest time, it took me so long. I might be the odd one out, but you kept saying AP, and I'm like, what is that? It's actual play. It's actual play.
Yeah,
it took me 40
to
to 50 minutes to figure what AP meant.
I am happy you said something, Adrian, because I too was like, AP, okay, assistant principal. I got that one. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense in this context. I think I got it a little bit sooner. I think it was around the 25-30 minute mark.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Take this part and put it in the very beginning.
No.
I should have defined it.
For me. People like me.
No. And that's okay, because there's just a lot of different, what's the word for it?
Acronyms?
Is that an acronym? It's not an acronym.
AP?
AP,
is that an acronym? What's an acronym?
I think an acronym is letters that stand for a greater word.
Oh, I may have been wrong. An abbreviated form from initials like NASA.
Yeah. AP is an acronym. You were right.
Yeah, okay. So see, look, sick. I've been stuck in this house for 2 days, okay? That's my excuse. But I do that a lot in these episodes. A lot of people use different abbreviations and acronyms, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I absolutely know what you're talking about. Easily.
Please, if I use another acronym and you're like, I don't know what that means, please ask. Like, because I might just, like, throw terminology around. I
also had to look up dramaturgy. I thought this was a well-known figure, and I'm like, no, actually, someone's username.
I don't fault you for being unfamiliar with the term dramaturgy. This is also relatively new or uncommon, even in APs. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know another channel that uses a dramaturg outside of, like, Dimension 20, and they call the role is known as a lore keeper.
Gotcha. Man, I need a lore keeper.
Hello, dog.
Don't ask questions right now. This is what he wants. Okay, this is...
Look, his little tail.
Tail.
Don't give it to him, because the awkward way that I have to hold this dog is self-inflicted over 12 years. Are you done yet?
He's such a handsome boy. Hello.
He is. Look, this is Watson. Watson is a handsome boy. Very rarely is in the podcasting room when it happened, but he didn't want to leave because he was snuggled in his cuddler. But now he is wanting to escape, but doesn't actually want to escape. He just wants like intense cuddles and.
Is he a sausage dog? Is he a wiener?
He is part sausage.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hide his shame.
Show straight peen sausage. Like, no, wait, stop.
Yes, he's a street dog. I got him he's a rescue. They're all rescues.
He's very cute.
Thank you. So, there's the Watson for our podcast where people can't see the video.
Watson is a very cute, the dog portion that no one can see.
Yeah. We it's like, I don't know. I've cut like so much dog portion out of our podcast, so it's just one long extra.
The dog cuts.
Yeah, the dog cuts. I have all the dog cuts in like it's been like either every session or every other session we have some dog conversation.
It's been a while since we've had any dog action. Honestly, it's been a little bit.
Honestly, you're right. Speaking of like not knowing acronyms, I was talking to some people who aren't in the space or who don't play board games that often, and I'm just like, yeah, TTRPGs, and they're like, hold up. You gotta slow down for me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is just common lingo I'm throwing out.
Mm-hmm.
MMORPG.
Yeah, yes.
Once you get the RPG portion, like, you're just looking at another 3 letters.
Exactly.
Get this dog out. Hold on.
You're gonna get the dog out?
You talk. I gotta let the dogs out.
Actually, my food has gotten here, so let me just bring it in from the cold. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. All right, it's just me now. Hey, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Just been a real good time. Just me and the folks over here in the podcast land are just having a grand old time, okay? Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's just chilling out here, just having a good old time, just me by myself.
I'm
Hey,
sorry,
Alex.
I just let them out.
I know, it's okay. Connie went to go get their food.
Oh, good. See?
I'm back.
If they're cold, if you're
What'd
cold,
you get
they're
food?
cold.
We got
Was that a whole
ramen.
sentence? Did I just say, what'd you get food?
I understood it. I understood it. So it served its purpose, which is communication. Ramen. We got ramen.
Hell fucking
Hell
yes.
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
so
that sounds
excited.
so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Got a beef
This is
sukiyaki.
definitely where I put the internet
Hell
cut.
yes. Adrian, what's your go-to ramen? What do you like in your
Go-to
ramen?
ramen.
Yeah.
Anything with udon noodles. I like tonkatsu, but I'm down with others. But that's like the only one they had at when I worked at P.F. Chang's, and they had ramen for like a 3-month stint. It's like the only one I was able to get to. There's some good ramen places in Dallas that I haven't tried out.
Hold on, I've just realized, like,
Oh
you
my
spent
God.
a lot of time with, like, not good, like, any Asian food, like, nothing. You've spent a large portion of your life, 0
That's tragic.
Asian
alone.
options.
I went to Alpine for 2 years, and that was a desert of like culinary experience. I freaking McDonald's, Subway were good. That's it. That's all we got out there, the middle of nowhere.
That's tragic. I grew up in Shanghai, China, and like, there was no lack of good food. It was so good. Like, red glazed pork ribs, like stir-fried celery and wood ear, stir-fried egg and tomato, all kinds of fish and seafood. And then I came to the States, and I was like, what is this? Like, I had my first ever like Panda Express, and I was like, this is delicious. I was like, this is delicious. This is delicious. This is diasporic Chinese food. It is not like mainland China Chinese food, but it slaps. I was like, sour chicken. Never heard of her. This is like orange chicken. Like, this is yummy. This is so yummy. So I've come to love Chinese American food and like mainland Chinese food. Yeah, that was an interesting digression. Please continue.
No, it's all good. Listen, at least I mean, there were some like nice like Mexican restaurants over there, but they're far and few between because restaurants over there in the middle of nowhere, family owned at least, were there for a bit. You know, as long as you had like a good customer base, they would stick around. But if you betrayed the customer's like trust, game over. There's only like 10 people out there. Over exaggerating. All right, we're getting
Are
close to
you
the end.
though?
What?
Are you over exaggerating?
Yeah,
There's like
I don't
10
know.
people.
Shut up. It's like 20, okay? Me, my boss, and the other people that I have to take care of.
Well,
No.
Texas must have really good like Mexican food, though, right?
Oh yeah. It just depends where you are. Like if you're okay, I'm gonna do some dissing on Austin.
Fucking Austin does not count as
they're
any
they're
sort
like, oh, we have the best tacos, but they're like hipster tacos, and they're like not like the greasy, disgusting, like every red beans and rice. Oh, I said red beans and rice, but like beans and rice.
You did said red beans and rice.
But I was thinking
Are
about
you
red beans and
even?
rice.
You like live in San
I love
Antonio
red
too. Like
San Antonio's pretty good,
San Antonio's good.
but I don't think it's the best. I'm still looking though. You know.
We do have a traditional Mexican restaurant that we go to. And then like I love Tex-Mex. Like literally I don't give a shit. I will eat it. I don't even care if I can eat any of it. I don't even care. I will eat all of it. Okay. I don't care. Just don't tell me what it is. At some point, just don't tell me.
Oh,
But,
you mean like lengua?
Well, okay, like
I love lengua. I know what that is. I love.
Don't tell me the words because I know what the words mean. Just tell me it's good. Like,
You don't even want that. You've been around too long. You already know what those menudo.
I don't need to know. I don't need to know what it's made of. I don't need you to tell me.
I love
because
it.
I will
love
not
that
eat
shit.
it. I just need to tell me it's good, right? I don't.
I don't need to know
Lengua's
where it
so
was
good.
made.
It's so good. I grew up eating
is.
duck tongues as a snack too. I love tongues. I love feet. I love all kinds of extremities from animals. Mexican food is essentially non-existent in China. Like I didn't have quote unquote real Mexican food until I came to the States, and I was like, this is freaking delicious. This is a burrito? I was like, this is revolutionary. And when my partner and
everything.
you know, literally, when we visited, went back to China back in like 2019, like right before COVID, they're American. And they're white. And there was a moment where, so they got stared at a lot, because they also look queer as hell. They have so many piercings and tattoos. They got stopped more times than I can count, because people were like, you're so beautiful, you're a model, let me take pictures of you. And I'm like, they are beautiful, yes, they are like a model, yes, but also like it's the novelty of seeing a white American in the wild with like piercings and stuff. And we were about 2 weeks into our stay in China. This was our first time in China. And they were like, I really want Mexican food. Like, I'm craving Taco Bell. Like, I'm craving a quesadilla. And I'm like, see, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm so sorry. So we did our best to find a Mexican joint, but they put mayonnaise in their taco. Yes, they put mayonnaise in their taco.
That's pretty white.
Yeah. It's not, like I said, there's no Mexican food.
The time I spent in Florida,
Which is just like another country sometimes.
might as well. My roommate was from Louisiana, but was a transplant during Katrina in Dallas, in Texas. So we both were aware of what Mexican food could bring. And so we were like, just one day we were like, oh my God, I just want like a taco. And so we go to the Magic Kingdom because it was free for us to eat. And we were working at Disney at the time. And we walk in, and the only Mexican restaurant on property, I was like, oh, hell yeah, taco salad. Like, give me that good taco salad. Like, I want the shell with the beans. And it was literally just a salad in, like, a taco shell. No beans, no, like, taco. I was just like, what the? This is like a Caesar salad in a goddamn chip.
Not the iceberg lettuce. No. That's awful.
I was like, I've never been betrayed. And then we couldn't find tortillas. It took us like 45 minutes to find tortillas because they are not in the bread aisle where they should be. They were
they're not?
No, they're not.
Sorry.
It's not where you put, I guess, tortillas, because it's international food, so it goes in the international aisle.
That's hilarious.
Not for Texas.
It was international for Florida, I guess.
Oh my God, I wanted to die. I
All
love
right.
this segue. Food.
the
Listen,
food
it's
section.
not a bad segue, okay?
It's tavern chat. Okay, it's the tavern chat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what? Okay, so going back into like the role-playing aspect, having to make up like what's on the menu. I've had that question when I play the game when I enter a tavern or something all the time. I'm like when it's like low end mutton, you know, there you go. That's as far as my imagination go. But they're like, we went to a high end place, and I'm like, they've got everything. You name it, they got it. Like, I don't know how far my creative ability can go to just single out like a slew of like, these are the only things that are in this restaurant. My players will ask over and over, oh, please be more specific every single time.
That's hilarious because they're torturing you. That's when the players get to torture the GM. Like, dance for us. Yes, come up with a silly voice for this character. Tell us what's on the menu. Tell us. I actually, I've never been asked that question before by my players. We just don't really make pit stops in taverns that much. But one of my deepest joys in like world building when I have extra time is to come up with various foods of the various kingdoms in my world and Dake, the setting for the Second Stranger. And Dake is explicitly and specifically based on various Asian mythologies. So there are certain countries and kingdoms that are like loosely inspired by like Tang Dynasty China, as well as like Warring States period Japan, as well as like pre-colonial Hawaii and other areas so like that. Like Mongolia as well is another inspiration. So it was quite important to me that for those specific like countries that a lot of the food inspiration I was creating was like rooted in real world cultural touchstones as well. Like this idea of like a beautiful Tulungan roast duck, right? Like the, you know, that's like the capital chef's specialty, right? And like a 10,000-year-old egg as opposed to 1,000-year-old egg, like little fantasy twists on like real world dishes. And like for your world in particular, like if something that's fun is to bring in like a fantasy element too, right? Like a magical element into the dishes. Like this isn't just like goat cheese curd. This is like a devil goat. Like this is a devil goat cheese curd that if you eat it, like will increase your like deck saves for like by a +2 for a day, but you'll also become irresistible to goats or something like that. Or like adding in a little bit of like a strange twist.
Yeah, Adrian, like, torture them back. Torture them back.
Torture them back. Tempt them to eat interesting things on a menu, and then like hit them with like fun things.
Listen, I've seen Connie's way of like getting in the player's head. This morning there was a video of you fourth wall breaking your players.
The initiative
it's literally,
one, right?
Yeah, the initiative one where like the big bad was like, I don't want the big strong like barbarian. I want the bard to go first, the weakling.
That's why you look familiar to me, because I posted on that specifically asking you to come record with us. I was doing my goddamn job and finding people, and I was so proud of myself. And I've been sitting here for an hour, and I was like, I fucking know Connie. Like, I know this person. I'm done. I quit. Adrian, I'm sorry, like, I fail at my job.
Listen, I'm on top of the getting people game, okay? I know we haven't been talking about...
Once a quarter, it's me.
Yeah, once a quarter you get like a whole month worth, and it's very good, okay?
What I will say is, what really stood out to me about your email is that you were clearly familiar with the content and like where we were in terms of like production. Like you had mentioned like the 8 arcs and that we were like wrapping up soon. And like that honestly is like not very common in terms of like the people who reach out to me. Sometimes it's clear that it was just a copy paste template, which is fine. And I'm always very like honored and very grateful and appreciative whenever anyone reaches out to me about anything. Like it's a huge honor. But that did stand out in a really positive way and in a good way. And made me want to respond because it's nice. I was like, oh, there's that like extra personal touch. Like this Adrian person like actually did some research and like it kind of knows who I am. So that was nice.
I appreciate. Yeah, no, I've seen your content here and there, but then like the thing that I wanted to know about, because like I could like copy paste a similar message to everybody that has like a podcast stream on. But there's something that I need to know that I want to know about, which is like finishing up an arc, because I think that's so intense to me. That one, it's scary for me as someone who's creating something as well, and two, like, all these questions that I have for myself, maybe I can get some information from somebody that's been through it already. So I have to have some sort of drive for myself to ask someone to be on. Otherwise, it's going to be very uninspired questions. Or, I mean, I freaking love our food talk. Like, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah, that was great. That was great. I love the food segment.
But I mean, when I reach out, I make sure that it's not just like, I know you from this. I mean, anyone can know you from that, and that's great. But why? I mean, what do we want to talk about? I have to come up with a subject matter that's interesting to me, so that way when I ask these questions, they're not half-assed. They're just like full of like, I need to know because I'm floundering here. Okay, I got a campaign. It's on the freaking rails. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I gotta know what I want to ask with some sort of intensity. And so having this idea of the finality of like having that last arc, just one to me is super scary. But I mean, you've already recorded it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this has to be some sort of bittersweet feeling, yeah?
Extremely. It's extremely bittersweet. We're also in an interesting position as a pre-recorded show where, like, we were done in October. And now, like, but we're not done until it's publicly done. And we're also recording epilogues for each, like, we have individual character epilogues that I, like, have scheduled, like, separate time with each player to record. And, like, some of these epilogues bring in other players, you know, so, you know, it's not always just a one-on-one recording. But I'm almost done with those. I just need to record 2 more. And we're planning on putting out epilogues just not as a stream, but just on our YouTube as soon as, like, the finale comes out for our last Saturday stream. But yeah, it has been a really bittersweet experience. Mostly sweet. It's been really nice, and the finale, I feel both like I feel both really lucky and fortunate that it turned out this way, and also like, you know, there were definitely ways in which we attempted to set ourselves up for success to make it this way. But the finale feels really fitting. It feels like a really good end to this story that has been like 2.5, 3 years in the making, and it feels like a really resonant and like logical and fulfilling way to end everything, which is like, I feel that way as a GM, and I know my players feel that way, kind of like unambiguously across the board, and that's enough for me. And I have a good feeling about how the audience will receive it. Like, nothing hugely controversial happens where like suddenly aliens attack or something like nothing like absolutely just bonkers. It was all a dream. Exactly, nothing like that happens. But it does like wrap up in a really nice way, actually, and in a way that, like, for the last 3 episodes of Arc 8, particularly the last 2, all of us were just crying for like the entire thing. Like, it was hard for me to get through a monologue as an NPC or like a spiel, like, without just breaking into tears, but in a way that came from like a really genuinely affected place. And I think it like adds to the show, because like we were all really genuinely emotionally affected. It was a really emotional and sad goodbye. It's a death in some ways, right? There's some grieving involved when you're saying goodbye to a project, right? But we were able to have a little bit of a postmortem. We were able to sort of like, you know, through the epilogues and whatnot. And yeah, nothing but the deepest love to all my players and how they were able to send off their own stories. And I'm curious for you, Adrian, as a GM who's also thinking about wrapping up your own campaign in some ways. Like, is there anything in particular that's really scaring you, or is it just like the concept of something ending?
Something I've always had, like, I think it's getting to the end, because I've had a lot of campaigns, I've had a lot of projects, I've had things that have gone really good, very well, and then crash and burn, and then all that prepping, all that. Those ideas, all that story that I was creating with my friends or with other people is gone, which really sucks. So for me, when I get there, will I know I'm ready to end it? Will I have second guess? Will it be good? That's another, like, a big one. Will it be good, or is it just in my head that, like, yeah, no, that's the perfect ending, and it's only just me? That's what I'm worried about. That's the big thing.
I hear you. Like, it's hard because in a lot of ways, especially if it's a show, your voice will probably be the last one as a GM to like close everything out. Like players might say their final words, but then it's your job to like end it. You know, like, you have to
Right.
spiel it out. You have to, like, say, and that's where we end the show. Or, like, da-da-da. Like, there has to be some sort of send-off from you as the storyteller most times. So it is pressure. Like, I feel you. I totally feel you on that. It is, like, a good amount of pressure, and what the anxiety you're feeling is super real. What I will say is, like, if you like your players, right, if you're all friends with each other, right, no, seriously, like, and there's trust at the table, and there is love at the table, like, there's, like, trust that, right? Like, when in doubt, ask them how they want their character stories to end, and, like, what I like to do, what I did with my dramaturg was we looked at everyone's wishes for the ends of their characters, and I was like, oh, and we just sort of came up with, like, a closing image to end the campaign on that would make the most sense. And, like, the image, like, brought tears, like, to my players' eyes, and it was like, oh, and then, like, we ended it, right? And, like, also something I will say is, like, don't be afraid to treat the ending with gravitas. Like, don't be afraid to really own it and be like, yeah, this is a momentous moment. I'm gonna take it super seriously, and, like, this is how we're setting off this story, and to, like, own it as a GM, right? Because, like, that's one of the great joys of facilitating, is we kind of get to own, like, what happens in the story, and, like, really be that storyteller, and, like, be that narrator and that voice that just closes out the chapter for everyone.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like, well, I'm imagining my ending right now. I'm like thinking about what could it be, and I'm like, it does look beautiful. I'm gonna make it beautiful. It's gonna be fucking amazing.
Good, hell yeah, good. That's exactly what I want to hear.
All right, we've hit the hour mark. Any last questions, Alex?
None for me.
Connie, where can they find you?
Yeah, y'all can find me all across the internet at by Connie Chang. That's BYCONNIECHANG. Namely, Twitter and TikTok are the main places where I prowl. I am also the GM and creative producer for Transplanar RPG, which is the show I've been talking about this entire time. You can follow Transplanar RPG at TRANS, like transgender, planar as in interplanar travel, so that's PLANAR, and then RPG at Twitch. On Twitter, those are our main stopping grounds, and on YouTube, where we post all past VODs and whatnot. We also have a website, transplanarrpg.com, that lists all information about where to watch our things, where to catch up on recaps, etc., 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 who our cast is, what our show's about, etc. And yeah, outside of TTRPGs, I am a narrative designer with Bungie, so my entire life is just talking about games and game writing and narrative design and all that stuff. So yeah, don't be a stranger. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on TikTok, and yeah, thanks for listening to me blab on this lovely podcast.
It was fantastic. So, like, 10 out of 10 stars. Easily.
It was amazing. It was very informative. Yeah. Put some.
I'm going to write a very strongly worded email to Bungie and say, you know, I think Connie needs a pay raise. Like, I don't know what it is in the budget. I don't know if her work is actually great, but they're great. So, like, just do it.
You should lead.
Why
with
not?
That. Hey, so I don't actually know if Connie's good at her job, but you should give them money.
Just increase that pay, bro.
Connie, but from an hour of experience with Connie, Connie's A-okay in my book.
Whatever you're doing, it's not enough. Double it, triple it. I don't know. What are numbers? And thank you, dear listener, for joining us on another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. You can continue to follow us on all the podcasts, really, Alex. All of the social medias at Dungeon and Degrees. You can also rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcasting app. Share it with your friends, families, enemies, with your delivery food driver. Like, just get our name out, because that is the only way that we grow. If that's really not enough for you and you need to spend that hard-earned money that you are absolutely toiling over, you can always throw it at us on our Patreon at patreon.com/Dungeon and Degrees. For as low as $5, you can get an episode without hearing Adrian's voice interrupt you about halfway through. That sounds like a deal to me. I don't know about you, but that's what I would do. And thank you again for listening.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Connie.
Go have some fun.